Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here. I made it. I am just on YouTube right now. So thanks you guys for sticking with me and waiting a little bit here. We are working on the Aurifil block of the month, and we are getting there. We have the top section completely done. So we are moving on to the little heart sections that happen beneath this. So this is all foundation paper piecing. So we'll go through that whole process tonight. We'll probably go a little longer than usual just because interwebs, that's why. All right, had a lot of trouble getting on today, but I'm here on YouTube at least, so Facebook people will have to come over here and watch tonight. So thanks again, guys. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for the beginning crafter, and I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 9:30 Eastern and 6:30 Pacific, and it's a time that we can relax and craft together. So like I said, we're working on the Aurifil block of the month. It is foundation paper piecing. We are starting a new section, half of a heart right here, some new fabrics. So I'm excited to give it a go. Thanks again for bearing with me, you guys. Oh, there, I see you guys are popping up here still. Great, excellent. Thanks again. All right, turning you around. Okay, we will get a little bit in here. So again, thank you, you guys. It turns out that the server just wasn't working. So we are just on YouTube. So thank you guys for joining me. All right, we have finished the A section. And here is the photo of it. So this is that section right there with our fun colors. I'm loving how these colors are turning out. Next up, we are going to do this little heart section in the middle there. So, all right. I'm going to set this aside. We don't need him anymore. All done. And I am also going to set this, the D section aside. And actually, you know what? I'm going to set the C section aside as well. There is an opportunity with these two pieces, since they look like a mirror image of each other, there is really an opportunity to cut out both like matching pieces at the same time. But I think just because we're getting going and that adds another level of confusion to this whole thing, I think we're just going to do them one at a time. And that's totally legitimate and fine. So, all right, let's take a look at what we have here. So this is the B section, and I know that because it has the letter B in front of all of the parts here. So we have like B1, B2, B3, B4. So we know that this is the B section. There was no other B's in any of the rest of the piece. So we got them all here. After the B are the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the order that we stitch in. And you can already see we've kind of color-coded this with the colors we want to use. You can see A, B, C, D, E. That represents our cute little alphabet fabric here. So we do have this fun little fabric that has a little alphabet in it. That's why I colored it with alphabets. And this is colored in pink because we are using the bright pink. So we have not used this fabric quite yet. I think they are going to look so cute together. So, all right, let's get going. So the first piece here is B1. We always start with the first piece and the one piece versus the rest of the ones. The one piece on every paper piecing block acts differently than any of the ones after it. So this is going to be unique. One thing I do have to help me out is a second printout of the piece here. So this is the B piece right there. I'm going to actually cut out B1, and by having the cutout of this paper template, that's going to help me cut my fabric, because we got some wonky shape here, right? And we're going to need it to be, we're going to need to make sure that we got our piece correctly. And actually, I have one other thing that's going to make this a hair difficult for me, just to start out with, is I'm using a solid fabric for this inside piece, this B1 piece here. And solid pieces, solid fabric with foundation paper piecing can be a little difficult because I don't know the right side and the wrong side. So all throughout this piece, I'm really concerned with the right side and the wrong side of the fabric, because this is the wrong side of this. When I flip it around, that will be the right side. So whenever I'm cutting fabric, whenever I have this piece up, I need to remember that the right side is down, just like how the right side is down. In this case, they need to match. And when you have these wonky shapes, if you accidentally flip it, it's not going to fit anymore, right? So I got to keep that in mind when I'm doing this piece. Luckily, I'll just keep this with it, and we should be good to go. All right, unfolding this. So I didn't really press this, but I don't need that much. I just need, like, right here. I'm going to just cut out a blob here. I don't need any perfectly straight edges like what I'm going to need later. All I need is a piece that's going to be as big as our template piece plus a generous seam allowance. And I mean more than 1/4 of an inch. I like a good 1/2 inch on it. I just like cutting a blob. It's so kind of liberating not have to cut perfectly with a ruler and everything. The selvage is right here, so I'm going to cut that off. That's that little edge with all the holes. All right, now let's cut our generous seam allowance on here. And I'm trying to glance up at your questions, you guys, as we go here. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Super happy you guys made it over here. I know it was like a 40-minute start that we missed. All right, so I have to remember now that this is the wrong side of the fabric and this is the right side of the fabric. But luckily, it'll be really quick. All I need to do is now replace this template piece with my actual piece. So I'm kind of lining up that B1 piece, and I'm just going to place my real template right on top of there. And I just have to remember again, I need it to be as big as this plus the generous seam allowance. And I'm already seeing I'm pretty close to the edge there. So I'm going to just scooch up a hair. There, that looks a bit better. Kind of centering it in there. And then I'm going to put a little dab of glue on there just to get started with the piece. That'll just hold it in place temporarily. So this is just a washable glue. Oh, yours measures 12 by 12 inches and you allowed heaps on the sides. Yes, Jenny, my guess is that it's probably the pieces were printed out a little bit small, or when you lined them up, they weren't exactly on. So that is one thing I thought of today. I actually read the instructions for this today, but when we taped this together, we did not really check that it was 12.5 inches. This needs to be 12.5 inches. I did check before I came on here today, and we are like just at 12.5. We're actually probably a little shy of 12.5. So this might be just a hair small when we're done. I should have checked that beforehand. But yes, when you print out your piece and assemble it, it should be 12.5 inches and ultimately 12.5 inches by both sides. So mine's going to be a little shy as well because I didn't think of that. But yeah, my guess is, Jenny, that it just wasn't printed out quite right. Okay, anyway, you guys, we are done with B1. That is literally all we have to do for the first piece. And this is the same with any section you're working on. The first piece, you're always going to be done by just gluing it on there like that. You can use a pin, but I like that little dab of glue. So, all right, we're moving on. Let's do the B2 piece. Okay, and we are using this cute little fabric here. So just like last night, we need to be concerned about one line, and it's the line in between the piece that we're working on and whatever came before. So in this case, B1 came before. So the line in between B2 and B1 is this line right there. So that is the line that we need to be thinking about while we work on this B2 piece. So just keep that in mind. Let's cut out our template piece, our secondary template piece for this guy, so we can get our fabric. Now again, we probably could cut, this looks awfully similar to the C2 piece here. We could just kind of double up our pieces. Actually, all four of these look close enough that we could probably double it up. I might give that a go here. Let's see. If I cut the pieces big enough, we should be okay. All right, let's give that a try. So here is our fabric here. Let's go to a place that we've already cut on. So in theory, we have a triangle and then another triangle that's flipped, and then we have the same thing on the other side. So I could cut all four while we're at it. And I might be able to just do that by folding it twice, because two will be in reverse and one will be opposite. So I'm gonna just, and I think in each case, we're concerned with this diagonal. So that diagonal is gonna be our main deal. So let's try, I think right like that. This might be, I maybe shouldn't be trying to do this all at once, but we're going to give it a go. So I'm just cutting off the selvage. I'm actually just going to kind of cut a starter line here just so I'm away from all this other fabric. But that's the line that needs to be our straight line. So I'm going to get my cutting board out. So remember that line, this is that line that we're concerned with, the one that matches up here. That is the line that we need to have perfectly straight. So I'm going to cut all of these at once again. Getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but we'll see how it goes. This may or may not have been a good idea, but we'll see. You know, at worst, I'm wasting a tiny bit of fabric. Okay, so now we have that super duper straight edge. So that hypotenuse, this edge right there, that we want on the straight edge and about 1/4 of an inch away, and then the rest we want our generous seam allowance, and we're kind of doubled up here, so I'm just going to snip this. Now this can be that blobby shape. It doesn't really matter as long as we got that generous 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? So we got our straight line and then all the other pieces. So let's see if we actually got everything that we need. And let's do it with the wrong sides up, just because then it'll mimic this shape. All right, ooh, I don't have a little corner there, but I think we still have plenty all the way around. All right, so there's 2 pieces. Oh, and here's 2 pieces. So I think we got our pieces for, you know, these 2 sections and then the other half of the heart. So we got them in the bag here. So I'm going to set those aside. The one we want is for our current piece. There we go. So again, this is that line we're concerned with. So that's the line that has to be a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance from this straight edge. So let's keep that in mind. Right side of the fabric is still down. We need to now make this seam allowance on the fold here. We need to make this super good so it can match up with our other seam allowance. And we do that with a straight edge. And actually now I can get the postcard out instead. So last night I used the super big manila folder just because I needed a longer edge. But tonight we're working on the small little piece, so now I can go back to the postcard. You want like a thick paper that has still the thin, sharp edge to it, but has some heft to it, so a postcard works perfectly. You want to expose the piece that we're working on and cover up what we did before. And we're going to ignore the parts that haven't happened yet. So we're going to cover up this B1, put our straight edge on that line, and then expose our B2 piece. We're going to flip that over, and that reveals our seam allowance here. So we need to cut 1/4 inch away here. You can do that with just your a normal ruler, just like this, and rotary cut it. But I am going to use my add 1/4 ruler again. So this is that add 1/4 ruler. It's that special ruler just for this purpose. This is literally the only reason to use it. But it has a little bump at the end there, and that bump is exactly 1/4 inch. So I can just kind of bop it on. Because of the thick postcard there, it stops it. So I can just, even with my eyes closed, I can go like boop and know it's in the right spot and know that I got 1/4 inch. I'm going to just cut this off. Don't need any of that excess anymore. So there is our perfect seam allowance there. All right, and now we can bring this piece back. So remember that piece goes right here. Now I don't need this guy anymore. And we basically need to match up these two seams. So let's put them right sides together. There. And I'm going to place those seams together. So I'm kind of just guessing like right in the middle here, but we're going to do a test. So now that those seams are together, let's flip it back around. We are going to pretend we are sewing on that line. And this is to test to see if our placement of the B2 piece is correct. So I'm going to just actually take two pins here. All right, so we fake sewed. Now let's fake press. All right, I think we're totally fine here, but let's take a look at it. So what I'm looking for is I still need my fabric to be as big as this B2 piece plus a generous seam allowance. But now look how much seam allowance is up here. We're actually fine because we do have our seam allowance that we need plus a little extra. So technically we're fine, but look how much is here. So I know I could have probably placed this a little bit better. I could have probably scooched it down a little bit. So why don't we actually do that? This is why I like using an extra big cut, because we would have been fine here, but if I would have cut it smaller, we wouldn't have, and I'd have to do all this fidgeting. And I'm just going to do this now, but later I'm going to trust the size of my block. I'm still going to test it with here, but I'm probably not going to need to fidget it around. So I shifted it down. Let's do our test again. And the thing is, if you miss the piece, so like, for example, if we fold this and I don't have the B2 piece and the seam allowance, let's say I shifted it too far and now I'm missing part of that B2 piece, that would be not fun because I would have to take out all my stitching and that rips the paper. So you don't want to get this wrong, really. It's a big repair. Okay, but I shifted it down and see we are more equal with that. Again, I really only need that 1/4 seam allowance, so we're good. I'm ready to sew. So I'm going to flip this back. I'll leave the pins for now. I'm going to sew in the seam allowance and then on that line and then into the seam allowance again. So we're just going to follow that line. I could take the pins out though at this point. That's what's so nice about foundation paper piecing with itty bitty pieces like this is I can get away. Actually, I'm going to take them out. It doesn't flap around everywhere. Like I can hold two pieces like this together. Last night we had those big floppy long pieces. So this is why I think small foundation paper piecing can be way easier. All right, I'm going forward a couple stitches, then backwards just to lock my stitches in place so they won't start fraying. And then with my small stitch length, I've reduced my stitch length, so we're actually making more puncture holes with each stitch. Going right on that line, and then into the seam allowance again. Reverse and forward. And that's it. We got our first little piece sewn. Oh, Amy says that she bought these pins and lost them and found them again today. Yeah, they're kind of fun. These are, I haven't really used them for what they're used for, but like this has a silicone top on it, so technically I could press on top of these and you know, they won't get hurt by my iron or anything. So sometimes there might be a need for that, and I needed new pins, so there you go. Okay, let's get my pressing mat. See what we got here. So I'm gonna press this open and press the seams just with my fingers to start out with, because we do have a little bit of flap here because we've only sewn that little bit. So if I just press with the iron, it could just shimmy these all over. So it does help to just finger press that edge out a little bit. Ugh, and I know this is already gonna look super cute. You always want to put this side down because I don't want to get all of that on my iron. So we're always going to press with that side down. And that is it. We are done with the B2 piece, and we are starting to carve out our heart. So each piece that you put on helps carve out everything that happened before, and that's just, it's so fun to watch that all be revealed. All right, let's flip it around. B3 is next, and we've already cut it. So I don't actually need to cut that. I don't need to get this from my template. Like I don't need my extra little piece because we've already got our pieces here. So all I need to do is I need to cut down this seam allowance. And again, we do that by covering up everything that happened before, just exposing our one piece, our current piece. And because I sewed here, I'm going to have to rip this a little bit, which is fine. And then I'm going to fold it over the edge like this. You can actually tear this little piece off too. Flip that over too. All right, and get that add a quarter ruler on there. Just bops on there super easy. Yep, magic pins. Magic heat resistant pins. All right, perfect seam allowance. It's kind of a dual seam allowance. We got some of both fabrics in there. All right, we can flip that back. And then the right side is still down, so we can match the edge that we just perfectly cut and that straight edge, that nice edge that we cut earlier, and flip those together. Again, I'm guessing at where it should go. We're gonna do the test still. I do like doing the test. Again, I did cut my pieces large enough that I probably can get away without testing. But triangles can be tricky. Some of these oddball trapezoid shapes can be tricky for the brain to just spatially get just right. So I always think it doesn't hurt to test. All right, I'm test pressing. Okay, yeah, so we got it around our B3 plus our generous seam allowance. We're plenty good. I'm gonna flip that back and we will head over the machine and sew those. This guy is going quick. That's nice. All right. I just took one of the pins out. You can take them both out if you want. Again, I can get away with not having pins because this piece is so small, so it's not flopping around. But with those other pieces like yesterday, they were flopping around a ton. We pinned it and put an extra dab of glue on it yesterday. So anything to keep it all from flopping around. Again, that's why I like these itty bitty pieces. They look more magic because it's, wow, how did you sew those tiny pieces? And they're just easier to do. All right, yay. Okay, I am trimming those threads right away, if you noticed. I don't want all that hanging out everywhere. It'll just get in our way. Peeking. All right, let's press that. Get this guy back out here. And let's finger press it first. Extend those ends just a hair. And there we go. Terry says that she has so much fabric, I don't ever think I'll have to buy fabric again. That's the truth, isn't it? So I'm definitely trying to do the same. I haven't bought fabric in a while. I'm trying to use up like all of this stuff. This particular project is on purpose trying to use up fabric in my fat quarters bin that I had laying around. I'm on purpose using fabric from there. All right, done with B3. One left here. So this one we do have to cut out again. Let's get our template piece. This is the B4. Like I said, triangles can be tricky, and this is a triangle that has all different sides, so it's not as easy. It's not as like mirror image as the other ones. It's not as equilateral as the other ones. So our fabric is still that alphabet fabric, it looks like. It's so nice to have this guide. I mean, you know, think about this once. You could have done it just like this, but I knew immediately that this fabric is this. I don't have to look it up anymore, so I'm never going to accidentally use a different fabric for that. So that extra step of drawing, like coloring this in, I mean, I can't stress enough that just makes it so much easier. Like the less you have to, there's enough steps, right? To have to use my brain for something else that's not working for me. All right, I'm trying to get it already on a pretty good straight edge, and it kind of just looks like it fits here. Ooh, is my fabric? Nope, okay. That was, my fabric is right side up. I'm glad I caught that. I gotta do it right side down. There we go. I can still go in the same place. All right, I am gonna clean that up. So let's do that really quickly. I'll use my add a quarter ruler, just because I have it close by. I probably wouldn't have needed to clean this up, but it gets rid of all those little frayed edges and makes it look just a teeny bit nicer. There we go. All right, and then the rest I can just cut as my blob. This is that edge, remember, that I kind of brushed over that, but this is the edge that we need to be concerned about is the one connecting our current piece with everything that happened before, and the only line that's there is this one. So that is the one that I need on that straight edge, and that I need that 1/4 inch, just that 1/4 inch or so away, whereas the rest can be that bigger than a 1/4 inch blob. There we go. So it's important to keep in mind what edge you need for sure. Okay, so this guy is ready to connect to there, but first we have to get that good seam allowance here. So covering up everything that happened before, revealing our piece that we're currently working on. Get right on that line. I'm going to have to tear the fabric at this seam, or the paper at that seam again. There we go. Let's flip that other little end over. Okay. We got the crazy edge that is all of a sudden going to become perfect. That's another thing I love about foundation paper piecing. You just start out with crazy, ugly blobs, and along the way, they just become perfect. It's kind of magic. All right. So let's, this piece went there. I don't need him anymore. And those are the edges that we're aligning. So let's get them right sides together. And again, I'm guessing where this is going to go. I'm thinking that's probably good. Let's do our test sewing, our fake sewing with our pins. Oh, you use directional fabric. That's totally fine, Charla, but yes, if you use a directional fabric, and what that means is, you know, these shapes go every which way. So this is not directional. It's a tossed pattern, meaning all the elements go different ways so that no matter how you hold it, it will just look fine. A directional pattern would be like a stripe. Like a stripe, you know, you're only holding it this way or this way to get it just right. If you, especially with all these shapes that are different and twisted, you're going to have like a stripe going this way, a stripe going this way, stripes going this way. So that's more of a non-directional fabric, especially if you want it to end up as, like if you wanted these three pieces as a whole to look like vertical stripes going up, that's going to be tough because all of these angles are going different ways. You're going to have to really work hard to get, you know, like stripes, for example, going perfectly on all these pieces. It can be done, but you are majorly fussy cutting. You're majorly going to work hard to get there. So yeah, tossed fabric works really good for here. So let's give it a test press. Oh, I can tell already. I can see all the edges. We are definitely okay. Tons of space there. All right, let's flip it back and sew along the edge there. Yeah, directional fabric, like all the characters might be right side up. If you look at a fabric and if you turn it one way and it's wrong and you turn it the other way and it's right, chances are you got a directional fabric where it matters what direction it goes in. If you turn it any which way and it all looks fine, then you got a tossed fabric. So something to think about when you are doing crazy little pieces like this. And that's one of the reasons I didn't go with one of the fabrics. It would have looked fine, but it looked like it was trying to be stripes, and I didn't want to mess with that. I just wanted it to be random. All right, snip our little ends again. Ooh, we are almost done with this guy. All right, let's give it its press. Okay, let's finger press it first again, just so we can extend beyond our stitch line. Ugh, it's so cute. It's so fun using these fabrics that I haven't been using because I would have never put a lot of these things together, and this project is kind of forcing me to use the fabric I have. Like, I'm only allowed to use fabric from this bin, plus there's color themes to each of these blocks, which gives me that extra challenge. So it's been fun kind of trying to match fabrics. But there you are, you guys. All we have left is to trim this, and I think that might be all we do tonight. I know we didn't start till late, but just to kind of keep on our normal time and not keep you guys up too late, I think we'll just stop when we're done with this piece. Tomorrow, if this happens again, I think I'll know quicker how to get back in, like if I have issues, web issues again. So I should be coming on a whole lot sooner. Now that I know how to fix that error, sort of. But I will, just so you guys know, I will err on the side of YouTube versus Facebook now. Just letting you know, if I have to choose between the two. Okay, you guys, we're going to do one more thing here, and that's to clean this up. We are going to trim the edge, and I love this part because this still looks crazy and blobby, right? But the moment we trim it down, it just gets so cleaned up. So remember how this looks here, because we are going to magically make it look amazing. So let's flip around. So when we're trimming these blocks, remember, we are concerned with this inside line. That is our actual guideline. Some projects, some foundation paper piecing projects won't even give you this outer seam allowance. You'll only get those inner lines. So you'll have to know that you have to add a 1/4 inch to that. So I'm going to pretend it's not even there, and I'm going to use this nice edge as my 1/4 inch. So I got the big ruler out. I'm going to put my line, the 1/4 inch line, right on that piece, and we're going to trim all the way around this. Oh, Sylvia, thanks for sticking around. I know, it literally took me, if you guys are just popping in, it literally took me 40 minutes to get it working today. So the place that I was using, their servers were down, it seemed like. So that's why I'm directly onto YouTube. I'm not both on YouTube and Facebook today. So thanks if you came over from Facebook, thanks for coming over, and thanks everyone who's been here on YouTube as well. All right, we're just going around all these edges. Last one. But yeah, we have Thursday, tomorrow, and Friday to finish this block, so I still have confidence that we'll be able to finish it all. Even we have to assemble things yet too. I still think we'll get done. Especially how fast this went today. All right, here's the reveal. So clean and pretty. I just love how well that looks immediately once you trim it. Let me get the other pieces out and let's kind of peek at what this might look like when we're done. Yay! So this guy will be tucked in, kind of right here. Ooh, that color looks amazing with the rest of this. All right, and then we have the other half of the heart, which now looks the same, but remember, the reason it looks the same is because this is actually the wrong side, and this is the right side, so this is actually going to be like this, ultimately, when we're done, and this actually, too, is going to be like this, but just because they are kind of mirrored, like these are the same, we can get kind of a peek at what it's going to look like. So there's half of heart. Other half will be coming up. But there we go. I think this bright pink, man, it goes so well with these other little bits here. I'm liking it. All right, you guys. So tomorrow we will go through the other piece. And luckily, remember, we've cut out a few of our pieces already. You know, I think someone just mentioned this. Cut to, yes, Bev mentioned this earlier. I should have cut an additional one of these, but the flipped, so I would have had it for, when I cut this piece, I should have just cut that piece right away. I wasn't thinking about that, but that's the opportunity you have when you have similar pieces. You can cut more than once and then just have them to the side. You know, I didn't do that with the B1 piece, so I'm gonna have to cut those two again, but I do have those ready to go. But yeah, I think, honestly, I think we might be able to finish the C piece and these D pieces tomorrow. These D pieces, there's only 3. I can cut these 2 at the same time, it looks like. I think it's gonna go pretty quick. And then we also have to cut these shapes. So Friday might be cutting our 2 shapes that go on the side here. I think it's just more pink. I think it's this pink right here. And then we'll assemble the whole thing. And the assembly, if you're worried about the assembly of this, it is a little different part of this process. So we'll be doing that Friday. So if you wanted to wait till Friday to assemble this, some things that we're going to need to know is we have a lot of points. Like all these come to a point. We want to sew that so we get like that point just perfect. And there's a lot of points on the rest of this. We're going to want to sew this so we get that point just perfect. This so we get the point perfect. These two line up. And so these points are going to have to match perfectly. This point's going to have to match perfectly. There is, this point right here, we want to just trim perfect. So there is a lot of matching of points. And there are some tricks to help us with that. So I'll show you those. That will be basically Friday. So, all right, you guys, I am going to, we'll call it a night with this one, and I'm going to flip you around. All right, so thanks again for sticking with me. I know it took me forever to get on here tonight, but I think I got it figured out now. I got it troubleshooted, so if this happens again, I'll know how to fix it. But here we go. It is coming along. Ooh, I love how it's just beaming out of the heart. That is just so cool. I love foundation paper piecing. Everything looks so fancy. Like, if you didn't know about foundation paper piecing and just saw a quilt, anything that's this intricate, like all those angles are just perfect. I remember when I first saw quilts like that, and I'm just like, these people are magicians to be able to sew those little pieces. That was before I knew they were they were using a fancy technique. So it still gets me. I still love doing it. So thanks again for letting me stitch with you, letting me walk you through it. I hope it's helping. Feel free to share over on Facebook in the Penguin and Fish Crafters group. I'd love to hear how it's going for you. If you have any questions about part of the process, feel free to ask there. And thanks again, you guys. I'll let you go for the evening, and I'll see you again here tomorrow at 8:30 for sure, p.m. Central Time tomorrow. Good night.